it's a mom mode thing.
I think
You
it
know,
is.
it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dr. Ruth and Cher, we've talked about this. You know, once you're estranged and you go through that raw experience, there's a trigger there
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
As healed as you are, you have to recognize that there's a trigger, and your triggers are your responsibility. They really are. Triggers are our own responsibility.
Mhm.
And
There's a
that's where
really
that,
beautiful like saying that we have in dispatch lately. It has been going around. It's been like, you like you, you didn't deserve your traumas, but you are responsible for how you react to them.
so nobody knows what's going on in this conversation, really. So I'm going to give just a few guidelines. At the end of October, which was our last roundtable, Jillian announced that she was going to take off November and December to focus on her career. And we thought it was great. And we asked her a few questions about that. Also, around that time, Aaliyah came to visit me in Portugal. Okay. So those two things have been kind of happening over the fourth quarter of last year. Dr. Ruth and Cher and I, we recently decided to do timelines of our estrangements and compare notes. We also brought this into our live community and had all of our participants there do their timelines and then share what they found. The link in the description box so that you can download your own timeline and go through the guidelines, and it has prompts and questions for you to ask yourself. And it's just for the process of you learning a little bit more about yourself and being able to look at your estrangement from a different perspective. So we're coming off this timeline conversation that happened between just Dr. Ruth and Cher and I in December. And because Jillian and Aaliyah, we haven't really been talking for the past 3 months, I found that we were kind of filling in some space. So I think I was the one who probably instigated this, but I reached out to you, Dr. Ruth and Cher, and said, have you guys heard anything from Jillian or from Aaliyah? Do we know what's going on? Do we need to check in with them? Have they checked in? So Cher, Dr. Ruth, do you remember any of this? And what was your response during that time?
Um, yeah, I think I said I hadn't heard. I think I had reached out a few times, just like, hey, how's the job going, to Jillian, to Aaliyah, how's your travels going? And don't think I heard back. I don't have that great a memory. But and then I got the graduation invite, which I was like so thrilled, so honored to be included. The the one thought I did have, and I need you girls to tell me if I don't know if you knew about my big accident this summer. No, I thought I had sent it like in an email to everyone, including all. I was in a wheelchair. It was just horrendous. And I was like, gee, I never heard from either one of them. But maybe you weren't included on the emails between Dr. Ruth and Lisa.
I wasn't going to
I don't
interject in
remember.
the beginning. I did not get an email about your accident. I would have absolutely reached out. And with looking at my emails, which I was just pulling up right now, I've replied to every single one that you have sent to me, like with the check-ins and stuff. So like, I don't want you to feel like we've just completely ignored you. I understand like these last 3 months, especially for me, have been an incredible whirlwind. But I do have it right here that I do reply, and I don't have anything about your accident. So I would have loved to be there. I'm sorry that that happened.
Yeah, I wanted to, I just wanted to double check because your emails, all of you, go to my spam a lot. And I'm like, what the hell? And then when I go searching, there you are. Yeah. But I did not, maybe unlike both of, Lisa and Dr. Ruth, I did not feel it was pangs of estrangement. To me, estrangement is zero contact, because that's my experience. It's zero, absolutely zero. So for me to feel anything like an estrangement, it would be, not getting an invitation to your graduation.
Something just happened here between Cheryl and Jillian, and I just want to check in on that before I say what I felt like through that. But I don't know. There was a check-in for Cheryl. It seemed important for her to make sure you guys knew about what happened, and then it seemed like to include you, and then Jillian checked to make sure she responded to the emails she got. Did you feel like, Jillian, you had to I don't know, what did you feel like you had to do? Because you checked your emails and Aaliyah didn't.
I went right to my email and checked them too
You
to make
did?
sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah,
Okay.
while you were talking. So I was like, did I miss it? Because I was in Portugal and my least favorite way of communication is email. So
Okay.
my least favorite way to communicate these days, especially because I get so many for my work. I'm like, oh, I can't read another email. And I do delay the ones from people I know a little bit longer as long as I know they're not urgent.
Oh, okay.
So,
So see, that's good information to have because I don't know that about you.
yeah.
I'm always on my email. I'm always checking.
I can't stand email, especially
Yeah.
because now with what I do for work, I'm constantly getting emails. So I have like not only my like personal one and like one that I use for like my side jobs, but I also have my work email. So there's like 6 different emails that I'm checking at all
Oh.
times, and I get so overwhelmed, which is why I went to look, because I was like, Jesus, was I that much of an a-hole that I didn't even
Mhm.
respond to like a massive incident in somebody's life?
Okay.
And it also, to me, it did feel in a way like I had to double check, because I do think that it's important for us to hold ourselves accountable, especially on here where we're being
Yeah.
so transparent with our experiences and
Yeah.
we're being honest with ourselves. So to me, it was not only holding like myself accountable, but also like it felt I didn't want Cher to continue feeling victimized by not like responding, when I was like, okay, am I that much of a dick that I just didn't reply at all ever? And I wanted to confirm with myself that I do go out of my way to make sure that like I'm replying to things that are important to me, and like it wasn't just completely missed. Because in a way it almost felt like I can see where we get into our own minds about things, and where we get in our own minds of like, I would do check-ins and like they just won't reply. And I was like, let's take a second, because I believe that I did. And if I hadn't, then I'm more than willing to take accountability for that. And so I just wanted to like have that accountability for myself, which is why I brought it up and was like, good Lord, did I really
Okay.
just ignore the fact that a huge event happened in somebody that I care about's life?
And
Okay.
for
Did
me,
you guys get your email on your phone?
Mhm.
But you don't read those. You just read what? A text first? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Yeah.
because I do, for me, yeah, because that notification is going to come up. I'm not getting notifications about my emails. And on top of that, I get so much gosh dang spam that like I'll have 200 emails by the end of the day, no matter how
Oh, wow.
consistent I am with like with clearing them.
Unsubscribing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
like, and unsubscribing, doing whatever. Like I will have 200 emails in an hour just from random freaking things that like
Wow.
I either forgot I
Mhm.
signed up for, or they're just like random bots that like found
Okay.
my email. So yeah, for me, I hate email simply because my work email is the one that I get notifications for, because that's the most important. And then for like my Gmail or Yahoo or any other thing, I have those notifications muted, because otherwise my phone would consistently be going off. I got like 5 emails in the last minute I was talking.
Dr. Ruth, I'm reaching out to you and I'm saying, hey, have you heard from Jillian?
Yeah. And now I'm wondering, did you reach out to Jillian via email? Because I always text Jillian and I hear from her.
Well, we can only do email because she's not on WhatsApp. So that's what I'm kind of subject to. And if I text her, I think we both get charged for it. But I do text her if she doesn't respond. So
Okay.
there's
And
that.
I do reply.
Yeah. Jillian will reply to a text. Yeah.
right away?
It may take me
Sometimes,
a couple, it may take me like a day or two, but like sometimes because I work graveyards now, sometimes I'm asleep when I get that text. So if it's a couple
yeah,
hours, most likely I'm snoozing.
yeah. I give her 24 hours because I don't know. We're a little bit of a time change, but like I give you 24 hours. Isn't that generous of me? Um,
Very generous. Thank you.
before I panic. So Lisa, yes, you did. I remember you did ask that, and I had not. I don't think I had tried to get a hold of Jillian. But then when you hadn't heard from her, then I think I started texting her. And if I recall, I hadn't heard from her, but it wasn't a real long period of time. And then I eventually did hear from her. Because she does text back. And just recently, Lisa, you and I were talking, and I was looking back to see when I had last heard from Jillian. It seemed like a really long time. And as I was saying it, I'm like, yeah, it was Christmas. Like that was a really long time ago. That was only 2 weeks ago. So, it feels different than it is a lot of times.
Okay, my recollection, and again, yeah, memory's the first to go. My recollection of that whole experience from the time that she announced on the last round table, which was October 19th, till the time that I reached out to her, and I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But Ruth, I think I think this was email, and I was kind of stirring you guys up, and I was like, have we heard from her? Do we know anything? Do you think she's coming back to the round table? Do you think she's done? Do you think I was instigating this little conversation that I remember? And then I remember you, Ruth, saying, well, I don't know that I have heard from her. And so then I think we started really micro focusing on how much time was going by that we were or were not hearing from her.
Yeah.
So from our timeline discussion, what we discovered about ourselves is that we filled in a lot of blank space with lunacy, with craziness, with our own stories. Okay. And Jillian just said, we get into our own minds about stuff, and that's the most dangerous place for us to be. Now I'm reunited with my daughter again, and that's been fantastic, but I'm going to also bring it back to what's been going on with us in relationship to this topic and what we're talking about. So if you're listening, please take this to heart. There's dead space right now with your kids. I know a lot of dead space, but we cannot fill it in with our worst fears. We cannot. We have to be open to what the reality is of the situation. And if you don't know, then all you know is your kids went no contact, and there's quiet now. There's silence. There's stuff going on in their heads or their lives. We don't know what. More than likely, they're just busy and they are not thinking about their parents. And we've had a lot of conversations about this over the past year. So we've learned a lot from you guys. But here's the timeline of what actually really happened with Jillian. And when we were coming onto this call, I was going to start with her and say, okay, young lady, what have you got to say for yourself? Because you have not been getting back to us. Same with Aaliyah. And then when I did this, I had to reel myself back in and realize that I had to start with Cher and Dr. Ruth. So October 19th was the last roundtable. You said, I need a couple months to focus on my career. 2 weeks went by. That was it. 2 weeks went by. And I reached out to you, and because last time we all had a call with the last holiday last year. You were having a hard time. You just moved to Denver. You didn't have any friends, and we got on the phone. So I reached out to you, and basically I said, I'm concerned about you with the upcoming holidays. Of course, it's only November 4th. Okay, it's November 4th. Thanksgiving wasn't until the very end of the month this year. And I even said, listen, if you want to leave the round table for good, there's nothing warranted this. I
was so confused, to be honest.
And when you got this email, so I'm going to, just remind you of this email. I want to honestly know, I can handle it, what was going through your mind when you got this email. So I said, listen, If you want to leave the roundtable for good, that's fine. I want you to know it's okay, but I still want a relationship with you. I know you're busy and you have a lot on your plate, but just give me a shout out and let me know that life is going okay. Okay, so you get this email and your thoughts are what? 2 weeks later.
So when I got this email, I believe I was just still in the stressed out haze of like learning dispatch and like being on the floor and like, you know, you're always wondering about like, are you going to get that shooting call? Are you going to have like somebody whose life is completely altered by whatever call's dropping in your ear? So I believe I'd just gotten off of work and I looked at that and I was walking to my car. And if I'm being completely forthcoming and completely honest, I was like, what the fuck? And then I just put my phone in my pocket and I was like, I'm going to deal with that when I get home. And I drove home. Because I was like, did I ever say, like, I was racking my brain on the way home, like, did I ever say that I was gonna like leave? Like, did I show disinterest in being here? Like, I know that I'm taking a couple of months off, but that's because quite literally it's in the middle of my workday. Like, I can't be there. So for me, it was just like, I felt like I was racking my brain, being like, did I offend them? Like, did I make it seem like I don't want to be here? Like, so I think it was a focus of like, first of all, what? And then second of all, like, did I do something? So I think I went into like kind of triage mode of like, okay, how can I fix this?
Okay, well, it's interesting because you responded back 8 days later. Okay,
Yeah,
and
I
when I
did go
tell
to
you
sleep and
how
kind of forgot.
when I tell you how long it takes for my daughter to respond, 8 days is nothing. So 8 days later, you respond. And what I heard, because we hear your edge on this sometimes, we hear your frustration. We hear that we got you out of bed a little bit too early on a Saturday morning. We hear that in your voice. Okay. When I opened this email from you 8 days later, I heard the, are you kidding me? You know, what the hell, lady? Why are you sending me this email? But it's not the tone of the email at all. Here's some things that you said. It's just been a stressful time dealing with Patty's health decline and stuff like that. I still want to be part of it. Unfortunately, work for the next month won't allow me to do it. You gave me an update on your guy. I appreciate that. Career is good. Love what you're doing. Love that. Health is good, except I got this massive cold right now. Currently stranded in San Diego because there's a massive snowstorm in Denver. Taking a break from my phone too. Okay, how did I get all of what I was filling in with that, which this was so innocent? Comments, Sharon, Dr. Ruth? Aaliyah?
I think it's something that we do, right? It's like it's so easy to like when you don't hear from someone, I'm like, nope, Jillian's mad at me or my sister's mad at me or something. That's like what I first lean towards. I did something to piss them off. But in reality, we don't like that's what's going on in our world, in our mind, but there's so much on the other side. So
Lisa, you're such a feeler too. So I think it's different for you. It's different for feelers, I think, to more quickly go to the like you did, what's happening, and shares a feeler too. And in our timelines, I noticed that too, because you guys did a lot more. I don't tend to have more the feeling stuff. I'm the thinker. So I withdraw from something and think about it. Like I didn't even think about Jillian not hearing from her. It didn't mean I don't care about Jillian, but I just, even in my timeline that we were working on with our own kids, mine was different because I didn't have the now she may have thought differently, but I didn't have the communication after communication after communication, the try. I just backed off for a while. But then when I went in, it was big. It's going to court. So
With your daughter, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
I feel
see,
kind of
you
bad
always
right now. We're talking about contacting Jillian, but I feel like Aaliyah's being left out. Now see my.
Well, we're gonna get to her. Don't you worry.
Okay.
She's screwed up too. So yeah,
Okay.
she's next.
Wait, first of all, Leah went all the way to
Okay.
Portugal. Like, how did she screw
Yeah, and
up?
somehow she messed it up. So don't worry,
Yeah.
Jillian. This isn't all
Okay,
on
Aaliyah
you.
gets her
God,
turn with the
all
mamas.
moms are the same.
But Dr. Ruth, you always tell me I'm a feeler, and that always just blows me away because I think I'm so over analytical that I'm like, no, X, Y, Z, A, B, C. This is what's happening. This is the order it's supposed to happen. It's not happening this way. See, my mind organizes things that way. It's not like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard from her. So it doesn't feel like it's feeling to me, but I see how I think everybody's operates from a feeling place compared to you because you're so over analytical.
Yeah, and I think your organization and figuring things out and planning, that's what you were operating out of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
and
I'm
that's what
not
I
either.
usually
I fly by
operate
the
from.
seat of your pants. Like Jillian is such a mini me. So I think that is also why I don't panic about Jillian. So
I think Dr. Ruth and I are very, very similar. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
and to be honest, when I get those emails, like for me, it didn't feel like 8 days had gone by. But I think that's also because I was dealing with my grandma's like health decline, having to figure out imminently while I'm in academy how I'm going to get to San Diego, how I'm going to see my grandma for the last time, which thank goodness she's doing better. I mean, obviously not the best, but it was just such a whirlwind experience for me because it's like, okay, I have all this that I have to learn, and then I have all of this that I'm doing, and like people's lives are quite literally on the line, but also I have my personal stuff going on. So like finally seeing that, or like Dr. Ruth will check in. It'll take me sometimes a couple days to reply to her, but I'm always like, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still
yeah.
alive.
Sometimes it is just a real simple. Yeah.
I want to
Sure.
say, yeah, it's so good for me to hear that other people hate email as much as I do, because I have to tell you, I've had in the past so many people say, you never got back to me. You never got back to me. And I'm like, first of all, I don't get notifications about email on anywhere. So I don't know when they're there. And I'm like, Jillian, I have thousands upon thousands. I still have them, like I clear out, junk every day, but I have so many per day. And so one thing I've learned though now, maybe it was from the timeline, maybe from this group, from anything, is I don't accuse, I don't go straight to, oh my God, you didn't know about you knew about my accident. No, it's like, hey, because I can't check my emails. When I go do a search, because I had done that, it won't even show me. Like I have to search to find a group email that I sent. And so I don't know if I sent one. Did I include everyone? Did I not? So my first thing was, hey, did I include you guys on the email? And right away, you were like, nope. And so that's it. It doesn't have to be like a whole big thing. And, oh, you did this, you did that, you did it, you didn't. Oh, it's so easy just to say, and I find this with other relationships too. Hey, did that happen? It's so much just an easier way of life dealing with things. But email, forget it. I wish we had another way to communicate.
And to be honest, I just looked back on it today because I did have to search to find the freaking link to this Zoom meeting. To like, it's been a crazy month, but I didn't realize I'd added my stepmom to an email that I sent to you guys. So I was looking at it and I was like, why is my mom on the? Oh my gosh! I just added everybody. I thought I sent them separately, but everybody was on that email.
Oh wow!
And you should get your roundtable notifications, don't you? Aren't you on that
I
list?
do get the text, yeah, but like translating it from my computer to my phone, and also my computer was yelling at me because it was -2 degrees last night and it didn't like being in my car. So we worked with what we had.
Okay. I want to wrap up some things that were said right there before we get to Aaliyah. So Cher came in with what was on her mind. Did you guys know I had this accident? Okay. Jillian kind of came in with what was going on in her life. Well, I told you I had to take a break because I'm going into this career mode. That's really what's happening, is we're focused on our lives and we're trying to manage ourselves and get through the day in our own lives. So for us to be so concerned with how everyone else is feeling and how everyone else is translating our actions, it's too much work. We can't be responsible for somebody else's actions, including our kids including their parents. Okay, so let that sink in for just a minute, is that whoever is on the other side of your no contact or your pain is dealing with their day-to-day life. And right now, the world the way it is, that's a lot. That's a lot for everyone. Okay, so I want to bring Aaliyah's situation into this. And I also kind of want to talk about just slipping into a parenting mode. Now, you are almost 40. You've been living your life a long time without me in it, and doing just fine. And so now you're downstairs, and then you're there for a week, and then you go off, and probably about a week goes by, not very much time. And I hear this thing, tell me if you all remember this, it's 10:30 at night. Do you know where your children are? How many of us remember that broadcast that came over the news or the radio every Friday, Saturday, Tuesday night? I mean, we were just horrified that they had to remind our parents that we weren't home. It's like, shut this up. But that's what we grew up with. It's 10:30. Do you know where your children are? And that still plays in my parent brain. So I haven't heard from Aaliyah in a while, week, maybe 2 weeks. And I'm like, hey, you're in a foreign country. Is everything okay? Takes her a while. I don't know how long. I didn't do the research on her. She sends me a text with the photo. She's on a camel kissing a guy. If that is not Portugal. That is not Portugal. So she left the country without even telling me. And again, why does she have to tell me where she's going? She does not. But there's just this inclination to be a parent and be concerned and want to know, a genuinely interest in really being invested in your lives and just wanting to know about you. So when I'm texting you, Aaliyah, and you're out exploring the world, what are you thinking?
I'm just like, maybe I should have checked in. I didn't really think about it. I didn't know that you were so concerned, because I've been living my life. I don't even do that with my own mom, because one, she didn't know how to download WhatsApp. So I'm not, and I really wasn't checking in with anybody, not even like my sisters. Everybody had to reach out to me. I was really bad. I just like took the 3 months to just like, I don't know if you want to say escape or what. I just do my own thing.
It was almost like a game of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, but just Aaliyah Pingelli.
Yeah. So I just was like doing my own thing and not really checking in with anybody. Even my best friend was like, I feel like I haven't talked to you in years. And it probably was only like a week. So.
And good for you.
But,
and again,
yeah.
Logically, yeah, I'm glad you're out there having fun, living your life. I mean,
Yeah.
I had no expectation, but yet I did.
Yeah. And it's weird because when I'm somewhere, I don't check my phone that much. Like I'll have 5 pictures. So the pictures you saw was because somebody else took the pictures with my phone. If I'm like out doing something and somewhere, I don't really like check in with people, and maybe that's not good. And that's why all of my siblings have my shared location. So they're like, okay, I can see where she is. I can check her dot and I know she's alive because I see her location. And so, but yeah.
Oh my God, I do have your location.
Yeah. So
All right.
Everybody
Maybe
knows
that's
where
it.
I'm
Maybe
at.
we need to put a GPS on you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Just a
I'm
little
the
air
same
tag.
way. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I am awful to reach. Nobody ever knows where I am. I don't carry my phone with me. I'm the same way, and I love that freedom. So it's a mom mode thing.
I think
You
it
know,
is.
it really is.
Yeah.
And Dr. Ruth and Cher, we've talked about this. Once you're estranged and you go through that raw experience, there's a trigger there
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
As healed as you are, you have to recognize that there's a trigger, and your triggers are your responsibility. They really are. Triggers are our own responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And
There's a
that's where
really
that
beautiful like saying that we have in dispatch lately. It has been going around. It's been like, you like you, you didn't deserve your traumas, but you are responsible for how you react to them.
Yeah. Get the help and heal. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. As much work of as I've gone through and am in a much better place, I still have the triggers. Definitely. Yeah. And I check in a lot with Lisa. I call her on my way to work. Just
well,
to
and
check
you
in.
not talked about, I've heard you say you like the triggers now because now it points to a direction for you to look
Yeah.
at. And that's what I like about it too. It
Yeah.
gives me the direction I need to go to heal.
Mm-hmm. I know what it is, and I know what's still out there that's not really resolved or managed well. Yeah. Well, Leah, I was wondering, in your relationship with Lisa is a little different too, because you have this whole relationship with this estrangement, but
Yeah.
actually you've got the business piece too. How is that for you?
Yeah, it's funny because there's like sometimes in emails there is business with like, hey, can you take a look at this? And then there's like, hey, how's your mom doing? So it's like, how do you separate those two things? It's like, do I respond to like the personal stuff first, or do I respond to the business, like the professional side? So it is that trickiness to, and then sometimes, yeah, when messages come through, is she asking me something for like business, or is she just like asking? So that too, it's like, how do I keep that balance of checking in and like, because we have a nice, I love our relationships. I'm always like, yeah, I got to go to visit one of my clients in Portugal. And then we have a totally dynamic relationship. And so it is that like side of things too, where I'm like, I respond to her on weekends and we hang out on weekends where most of my clients, you're not going to hear from me on a weekend. Sorry. And so, yeah, it's finding that professional and friendship balance, I think, too.
That's hard.
Yeah.
What
And
do
you know,
you need?
that's interesting too, because I took off during the holidays, and I stepped away from my computer. I'm always stepping away from my phone, but stepped away from my computer. And I think it was you had asked me on our last business call to send
Yeah.
you just a quick outline for the year ahead.
Right.
And so it was on my to-do list, but because I stepped away from my computer, I was going to do it like, January 2nd. I think you had sent it to me, a rough version, like December 31st.
Right.
And then that kind of pulled me out of vacation mode. And I was like, oh, she's ready to go, but I'm still on vacation. And so then, like January 2nd, I responded. And now I don't hear from you for like, it probably wasn't 2 weeks. It felt like 2 weeks. And so now it's like, oh, is stuff going on with her mom? I'm pretty good at saying, okay, well, it's not happening right now, so let it go.
Yeah.
After I get out of okay, I assume that everything's okay. And I do. I really don't panic or over worry about stuff like that. But again, I think it just speaks to you have a life going on in one area, and I do too,
Right. Yeah. We all have our different ways of like handling it. So I think that's another thing with email and stuff. And I would love to get in like a group chat now that I don't have to use WhatsApp. But or Jillian, just download WhatsApp.
Okay,
We could
that's a
get in a
hard
group
call out.
chat.
You could have just asked me like over an email. This didn't have to be a whole Zoom meeting.
But yeah, and I just like I do have like even with my mom, she never really checked into with me like you guys do. She just like she anytime I would call her, I would be like, I haven't heard from you, and I get the guilt trip, but it wasn't like I had heard from her and she called, or she'll do the opposite. She'll call 100 times. I'm like, I can't pick up.
Oh my God.
So it's with you guys, I think it's kind of different. I didn't even think about it when I was like traveling and stuff. So you're right, we get into living our own lives and everything else, whatever has to take priority. It was making money and traveling that took priority. So I probably responded more professionally to you than I did personally to you. Just because.
Damn, that is transactional.
I mean, I think you're right. It's a mix. It always
Yeah.
feels like a mix. And
Yeah.
I like that. It's good.
Yeah.
Well, Aaliyah and Jillian, do you feel like of the three of us, and be gentle, do you feel like we guilt trip you? Because it is not any of our intentions. I'm sure I can speak for all of us. That is not our intention, but I'm really curious. Honestly, you have to be honest. Do you feel like you're guilt tripped by us?
I don't feel it in that way. Not, no. Because my mom's still really good at giving us the guilt trip, even though she's in the state of her mind that she is right now. She's still like, no, don't leave, don't leave. And I feel that you guys are more supportive and understanding, and you can identify the triggers that you were talking about. So like maybe there's a little bit of like, hey, where are you? And there's guilt from my side that I haven't been communicative or something, but I don't think it's like a guilt trip in the way that I was raised with.
Okay, so go into that a little bit more for especially parents who are listening and the guilt trip. So you're estranged, you go no contact, and because you're tired of the guilt trips, because you just need the freedom, you just don't want to put up with parenting anymore, breathing down your back, put that some context around all of that for us.
Yeah, it's more like when I do choose to reach out, it's just like, I haven't heard from you in forever. Not like, how are you? What have you been up to? It's just like straight into like, you never call me. And then it ends that way. Like the conversation starts that way with like, I haven't heard from you. What are you doing? Like, why don't you call me? To like, it ends that way. Like, hey, I gotta go. I'm busy. Like, I gotta get back to work or something. I called you with the window that I had. It's like, oh, when am I going to hear from you again? How long is it going to be? I never hear from you. And it's like bookends that way. It makes it really hard to even want to like pick up that phone when I do have that window to call and to give an update. So that for me, it's like, should I even call? Do I even want this emotional burden to catch up with her? But she'll lay it on even thicker. Like, it's like,
It's like
even when
mitigating when you want
yeah.
to deal with it. It's like, oh my God, do I have enough energy today to hear that?
Yeah. And so I have to, when you asked about the emotional at the beginning of the call, it's like I can only call when I'm a 7 or above, right? I have to wait till I can to give her a phone call. Even coming back from Portugal, the first time I saw her after her stroke in the hospital, she was like, yeah, when you were in Portugal, you didn't call me once. Like, she was still that coherent after that to know, like, when I reminded her that I was in Portugal for 3 months, and she's like, yeah, I didn't hear from you once. I was like,
She was keeping score. She kept score.
She
of that.
was, yeah. And so I was like, well, blame it on Stephanie because I told her to download WhatsApp. I didn't have a way to call you.
Nice way to fix that on
So, yeah,
Stephanie.
I blamed it on my sister. But yeah, so now it's a little different now because, and then I have built up more of a thicker skin for it, but it's hard. It is definitely more of a burden. Like it feels more of a burden when I'm ready to call her. So I do have to wait till I'm emotionally like not exhausted and I'm not like spent that day. Because if not, it's just like either we would end up getting in like disagreement and hurt each other's feelings by saying something. And that's not what my intention. I want to catch up with her, let her know what's going on in my life. So yeah, I did take some emotional space, I think, from everyone.
You need that. Everybody needs to do that.
I want to point out
Um,
something that Aaliyah said real quick. When I choose to speak to you, or like when I choose to reply to something, and I think that's highly important that we also recognize that communication is a choice. And hearing, I hope that people are hearing the fact that like it does feel like a burden, especially when there's so much negativity and so much blame. Like I'm gonna take this time to also respond to that question of like, do I ever feel guilt tripped? No, I don't feel guilt tripped by you guys. But this morning, when I was responding to share, I'm going to call this out on myself. I did get triggered a little bit because it was something that my mom would do, where like if something would happen, my mom used her health and her like anything, like any accident, anything to guilt trip me and be like, well, you weren't there and you didn't talk about it. So I felt triggered. And that's also why I brought up my emails because I was like, no, I was there. So for me, I don't feel guilt tripped, but I do think that it's important to know that there is a choice, and that choice gets a lot harder when it's constantly brought up and we're constantly berated over and over and over again about, oh, well, you never talked to me. You didn't take the time to call, like, blah, blah, blah. Because my grandma does that same stuff to me. Like every single time I have talked to her within recent months, and I know I've touched on this in previous roundtables of I dread seeing her name pop up on my phone just simply because it's going to be something that I didn't do enough of. I wasn't good enough. I didn't call her enough. Even if I call her every day, it it wouldn't match up to her standards for me. I would never meet those expectations that are set upon me for communication. And that's really difficult because then in a way like sure, my mom has passed away, and I know that my grandma in a weird way has correlated me with her, so I'm a stand-in for her. And in a way it almost feels like then there's double the pressure of making sure that like I'm triaging her needs while also like making sure that I'm the in communication enough, but like when is there time for me? So I would go months without speaking to her, and like it was pretty funny. There was one time where I was hanging out with my aunts and everything, and she called me, and I was like, I'm with them. I'm not going to pick up. It went in a circle of her calling me to Aaliyah, to Stephanie, to then like back to me. And it was just very interesting to watch because she has just like this little rotation. I feel like, the Wheel of Fortune where they spin it. It's like, who's it going to land on? I'll start with them and then I'll try everybody else. But at the same time, then you'll pick up and it's like, oh, well, what are you doing? Why are you with them? Like, so nobody can answer. And it's like, oh my God, that dread, the anxiety I feel when I think about calling sometimes is so hard.
When Cher asked you the question in the beginning, you immediately went to your phone to check and make sure, in your words, you weren't being a dick and not responding. You had to check in with yourself. Do you think that is also kind of spotlighted in your generation that, do you guys feel like you're being clumped in a category of, well, here's how this generation is, here's how the Gen Zs are, here's how the millennials just are? Do you feel that, or is that just your own stuff?
I think that there is like a sense of accountability that is now present more so than ever, simply because I'm able to, in the middle of this conversation, be like, no, I have it right here. So I think that it truly is a spotlight on this like of progression towards like having everything available towards us. So I do think it's a generational thing. And I think it's funny because like while my aunt was here for my graduation, she like we were taking a picture and she was like, oh, I have to have the middle or like the middle part so I don't look like a millennial or whatever. And I do think that there's something that's quite prevalent of the different generations and why some of these miscommunications are happening, because it instills in us versus them concept, in my opinion.
Yeah. I felt I had to check in with my boyfriend after we got back from Portugal because I was feeling guilty that I didn't see you more while I was there. But then there was this weird side of me, like I didn't want to like impose on you while I was there too. It's like, oh, I don't want to just like spend the whole time there. And I want to just, of course, see the country. And so I was feeling guilty, like, should have I spent more time? Should we have communicated better that you wanted me there longer or something like that? Because I was like, maybe I was feeling like, oh, I just went there and said hi, bye. And I didn't really like, I don't know.
It's almost like
So
the people make the joke about like Catholic guilt, but it's almost like a generational guilt of like, oh, did I do this right? Am I doing something wrong? Like, I don't want to be too much, but I also don't want to be too little.
Well,
yeah.
Aaliyah, what made you question that? Did Lisa send you an email or something that made you start questioning it, that you had to check in with your boyfriend?
Yeah, there was like, I think it was just like, I felt like we could have, or there was something said like, oh, I felt like we were going to spend more time together. And, um, so we made the effort to like spend an early Thanksgiving together and things like that. But there was this like, were we supposed to spend more time together? I don't know what was our expectations. We didn't really talk about that while we were there. We kind of just all of a sudden I was there. Like the time just came and I was there, and yeah, so there was
That's
that effort.
interesting. I think it was all the above.
Yeah,
I was so excited for you guys to explore as much as you possibly could. You only had 3 months.
yeah,
You were there for a week in the beginning and then you were off. I mean, just like a kid would just come in and then go off and explore. And that's
yeah,
what I want. And so my comments at the end were, well, let's have a Thanksgiving on Sunday because all of us are going to miss Thanksgiving because we were traveling and you were traveling. So let's do something that's like holiday-ish. And we found Sunday to do that and spend time together. And then my comment of, oh my gosh, you're leaving already. I feel like you just got here. Um, I mean, that was real and authentic too. It feels like,
yeah,
but I wouldn't have changed it. I wouldn't have put you in my box to keep you around longer for when it's convenient for me because I don't have time. I'm busy,
right.
I mean, I didn't have
Yeah,
time to cook for you or anything like that. So, I mean, it's really just, and I think our generations come from a place of really, okay, and please don't take this the wrong way, of having an understanding, more empathy and compassion. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. I call my mom, she drives me insane. I too have to make sure I'm at that higher frequency, that higher calibration to make sure that I can deal with some of the things that she will just say, which are just bizarre and have nothing to do with nothing. And sometimes I lose it and I'm harder on her. And when I get off the phone, I'm disappointed in myself because I could have done better. When when I'm at like, an 8 or a 9 and I can show up for her with just empathy and compassion and just let her talk about absolutely nothing, which I know she needs to do. And, just really hold that open space for her. It's the greatest elixir of life is that experience of having compassion and empathy for somebody. I mean, you just feed on it. But here's a reality of the time that we're living in. I think we pass that up because technology seems like it's evolving faster than even our morals are. In 1945, human knowledge was doubling at the rate of every 25 years. On average now, it's doubling every 12 hours. That's a fast world. And sometimes it feels to me like when I'm in my higher self, I feel like we're trading in compassion and empathy for efficiency. And that's what we give up. We're losing this ability to be human. Now, your younger generations, you only know this technology. You don't, you too, I hear you turning off your phone and unplugging, and that's great. But for a lot of younger generations, they just can't escape it. And they're just victims to those notifications. I recently added the blog to the website and I wrote an article about our grandparents becoming extinct because of artificial intelligence. And I think that's something we have to realize is we're in a world of artificial intelligence right now, and we can't tell what's what from what. We don't know real from false anymore. We have no idea. And that's why it's so important for us to dial into our IA, infinite intelligence. Did I say that right? And really just dial into who we are so that we don't take these things personally. So to me, it feels like empathy and compassion. I want to know you're okay. I'm checking in. But to you guys, it feels like, a parent who's like, oh, maybe you're disappointing. And we only have a few minutes left. I really want to throw this out because being reunited with my daughter and it being as easy and wonderful as it has been, I got to a place where I just love my life so much. And I was only expressing from that place. There was no more. It wasn't, because I got to do it to you guys. So with my daughter, there was no more of this guilt tripping or, whatever else in my communication. It didn't exist there. Even the frequency didn't exist there anymore. And when she came back around, she said, I don't want to be mad anymore. I don't want to rehash the past. It's been so nice just talking to you. Let's just keep emailing. So because she is so busy, so she's 29, she's right in the middle of you guys. She's so busy. She will write and then I'll write her right back because I have more time. And then it will take her 3 weeks to respond. And in that time, I'm like, okay, well, 3 weeks, what's going on? At first I was like, okay, did something just change? Did she have a change of heart? Is she done already? Is she going no contact already? And, if you go into these parental groups, you read that, oh, your kids, they'll come back, but then they'll just do it again. They'll estrange you again. They'll go no contact. Don't let them in. Don't let them in. If I was in those groups buying into that, I may have been tempted to reach out to her and say, what? I thought we were talking. I thought we were back. I thought we were good. But instead it was just like, no, just letting go. I'm opening up a space for a new relationship to happen that I don't know what it looks like because she's an adult now. And 3 weeks later, she writes back and says, oh, I have a new email address. Mom, please use this one. She gives me this long email. She sends me all these photos. It's fantastic. So I write back and it's just this wonderful exchange. And we have our old familiar bantering and humor going. And it's just really great. And then another 3 or 4 weeks goes by and I don't hear from her. And then she responds with this, again, amazing email. Nothing is wrong. I responded right back and I just said, I really want to write to you and say more, but I want to take 2 weeks off for the holidays. So give me some time to do it. No worries, Mom. Merry Christmas. It's just a busy, crazy time. Don't worry about it. It took me a month to respond to her because I was busy. And I was like, this is what it is. It's just, I'm loving my life. I'm busy. I've got so many things that I want to do because I'm so happy. I'm so inspired. And it's like, I've got to get back to that email. I've got to respond to her. But
Right.
that's the
Yeah,
space.
8 days. It didn't feel like 8 days.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the space. So
I find it
we've
very
got
interesting that when we're the ones who are busy and like everything, it's like, oh my gosh, like I have to do this. But then when we're expecting it from somebody else, it's like, well, I haven't heard from them immediately, so something must be wrong. So it's funny, the duality of it.
It's the same. It's the same.
Yeah.
If an estranged adult child will say the exact same thing as an estranged parent and vice versa. So the next time you hear or read something that really gets you going, put yourself on the other side of it and see if you can say the same thing.
Yeah.
I know Dr. Ruth sent me a video last week and she was like, oh, I resonate with this. This is exactly how I feel. But it was justifying her side. And I said, but they feel that way too. I mean, no matter what side you're on, you can hear these stories that you're supposed to hear through target marketing. It knows how to target you and push those buttons. And again, part of empathy and compassion is putting yourself in the other person's shoes to see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Thoughts, comments, I'll share with you the community for anybody who wants to stay on and wants information about that. But what are your final comments on that? And as far as taking things personally or having a set schedule that somebody's not meeting?
I think, yeah, just checking in and seeing the other side, like you said, and just taking that moment. So
I think giving yourself a reality check is also important, like similar to, I'll bring it back to mine and Cher's interaction of just like pulling it up and being like, wait, what? Giving yourself that reality check of like, it's not that long or it's not that bad or like there's nothing that truly is wrong. People are just living their lives. You know, like you said, 2 weeks and then it was a month. So it's never the silence and the space doesn't always equate to anger and like strife.
I think there's also value in, I've learned a lot from Aaliyah and Jillian today about how they prefer to communicate. And I think having this, being able to do a face-to-face and have a back and forth conversation instead of, there's so much that gets lost in emails and texts. And so I think it's real important to have face-to-face time and ask questions of each other, share your concerns so that you can get things cleared up right away. And I feel like we did today.
Yeah.
Which is a very healthy way to communicate.
Yeah.
It might be easier for us because like we're in this estrangement thing. This is a specific, focused, particular event that we are doing. So if we don't ask the tough questions and say what's honestly on our mind, then we're not helping anybody. We're not helping ourselves. We're not helping anybody else. So this is an arena it's almost easier to ask the questions. It's almost expected of us, I think.
I think it's very brave that we do this just
Yeah.
simply because you have asked that hard question. And in my mind, when I was asked like about the guilt trip, I wasn't going to bring up how I felt because I didn't want to like hurt Cher's feelings or anything or make it feel like I was picking on anybody. But then in my mind, I was also like, if someone's not going to say it, like nobody's going to say it. Nobody's going to like be able to
Right.
hack it out or understand. So in a way, yeah, I do agree. It is expected to be brutally honest and truthful.
Yeah.
We have to be here.
Yeah, we have to. It's important. Cher, were you going to say something?
No.
All right. And I want to comment right now. Okay, we have the luxury of being able to talk once a month, the third Saturday of every month at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. We have the luxury of doing this and working through this. But for a parent who doesn't have the luxury of working through this with their child because it's a phase of no contact, then that means it's just a period of no contact. That's what it means. Let them go. I let my daughter go for 2 years. I let her go for 2 years. I didn't want her. It took me a while to realize this. I don't want her in my box. I want her out there becoming her own woman, figuring life out, making it on her own. That's 100% what I want. The only way I'm going to have that is to let her go. And so with Jillian and Aaliyah, and I've met both of them in person, and they're both lovely people. It's the same thing. It's like, I love being involved in your lives. You guys are so cool. But I also just appreciate you just being who you are out in this crazy world right now and bringing literally to the round table your experiences and just talking to us. I mean, that's in itself is huge. So thank you. Thank you all very much. If you are interested in, I'm going to put the main link to the website in the chat for everybody. The reason I want to give you the main link is for this. So on the front page, you're going to have two options. You can just sign up to receive our newsletter that has healing prompts of how to take care of yourself, ways to focus on yourself every week, and just make yourself the priority for your own healing. Let your kids go for now. Just let them go. It's the best use of your time is to let them go and focus on you. You have to put on your oxygen mask first. If you scroll farther down the page, the second option, if you feel ready, like you want to do healing work, you have to be really ready to look at your shadows and say, who am I becoming as a result of all this? We have to ask ourselves who we're becoming through this whole epidemic called estrangement. Who are we becoming? We don't want our kids in our boxes. So all we can do is work on ourselves.